Let's see if this works, how long this lasts. Today is Thursday, it's Sunday, September 21st, 2025 at 7:15 in the morning. Turn that off because I don't know if it's drowning out my voice. I don't want anything drowning out my voice right now. We've had enough voices drowned out recently. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. And more that they're trying to silence currently. Like Candace Owens right now, she's being targeted now by AIPAC and Israeli Jewish donors of Charlie's and God knows who else is because they're everywhere in this country. I'm gonna try to make this video without interruption. I'm doing it live because I don't have any memory on my phone. Otherwise, I'd be taking a video in my camera, but I don't have memory and it cuts me off, and I don't want to be cut off because I want to say everything. But I might get cut off anyways because the internet sucks and cuts me off a lot when I'm doing lives, especially when I start getting upset about certain things because then I start having negative thoughts to where I want to say negative things and insulting things and offensive things and racist things and ugly, mean, horrible things to people that upset me, that continue to perpetuate this hell on this planet with their either deliberate evil agendas or their ignorant, brainwashed, ill, misaligned morals. And I don't want to, I want to say it's never been my goal to be insulting, to be hurting somebody. That's never been my intention when discussing ideas, when trying to communicate. I wasn't born this person that wanted to just call you names and make you feel stupid. That is the personality that I've acquired over time due to my experiences when trying to communicate my thoughts and question things, and the reactions that I've gotten from people for doing just that, just questioning, just trying to understand, just sharing my opinion. It's what I've been turned into, because it's been what I've been labeled as, when I'm not, and I'm not, I'm not a fucking racist. I'm not. People just throw these fucking words around: racist, fascist, bigot. They don't even know what they fucking mean. People have lost the ability to truly understand what a word means, and you change it over time and you make it into something it isn't. Okay, racism isn't specifically even somebody that's always name calling, saying whatever derogatory stereotype that they can think of to any person. That's not even necessarily racism, because people could just be being funny. They could think it's funny and just trying to be comedic, trying to make you laugh, and that doesn't make them racist. Racism is when you have an inherent bias towards somebody because of the color of their skin, because of their background. So if you don't serve certain people, because of the color of their skin, or you don't, even bother to talk to them at all, you don't have them, anywhere in your life, you don't want to know anything about them, you really truly don't give a shit about them, you like to see them completely gone, that's racism, that's hatred. Okay, that's what it truly means. And most people that you call racist because they think that black people are responsible for their own problems because they kill each other more than any other race. That's not, and I'm not saying that's a statistical fact or anything. I'm just saying an example because that's a big one. Um, that's just their opinion. That's just their perspective based off of whatever information they've got in their mind. It's not fucking racism, okay? And people just label anybody that has certain thoughts that they are offended by as racist, and that's not, no, that's not what racism is, you idiots. Fascism is not just being a nationalist, a capitalist, conservative, strong-willed, vocal person. That's not a fucking fascist, you idiots. Okay, fascists are people that don't want you to have your opinion. They don't want you to have your rights. They don't want you to have your your thoughts. They don't accept any of it at all. And that's not what, like, Charlie didn't do that. He didn't, okay, not agreeing with you and not accepting you are two different things. Okay, like, for example, I used to not agree with being gay marriage, gay anything like LGBT. And I used to think that just as a kid myself, without anybody telling me anything about it ever. Just as a kid, it just seemed inherently wrong, for two people of the same sexes to get together and have a romantic relationship. Because to me, the ultimate goal was always like a family of your own. And how are you going to get that from somebody that's not the opposite sex? Like, maybe it's not guaranteed either way. Of course, everybody has issues, right? But you have a probability that it can happen with that person. With somebody of the same sex, you'll never have a child together ever. You can adopt, one of you be the biological child, but you'll never both be connected to that child with your DNA. It's just not ever going to be possible. So to me, it just always seemed wrong, like not in the not what nature had planned, basically. So, but I didn't think it was my business to tell people who they should be with and who they shouldn't, who they should marry, who they, whatever. If people wanted to live that life, and I was young and didn't understand like trauma and all that either, so I thought that was really how they were born. So I, at the time, voted for gay marriage because although did not agree with your decision, I supported you. I accepted you for who you were, and I, would vote in that way. And there can be that distinction between the two where I disagree, but I'm still going to support your viewpoint because you're making more sense to me than what I can make out of it myself, But now that I'm older, I see things different. Now I don't agree with, I'll never vote for gay marriage again or anything gay, because now I do understand that is all that being gay or feeling gay, it's all based off of traumas that you've experienced as a child, either physical trauma, sexual trauma, psychological trauma, any kind of trauma, or a combination of those. That's what makes us feel disconnected from who we are in our being biologically, and it's what makes us want to disconnect completely from that so we can transform ourselves into something that we feel we're more capable of handling based off whatever trauma we experience. So had it not got to this degree, where people are like, trying to force it into schools and force it in kids' movies and shows, and get mad because you don't want to like force your kid to know why they have two mommies and two daddies at such a young age, like, and you just want them to wait until they grow up, a little bit before they find that kind of stuff out, like, and you're forcing us to like cater to these delusions by calling boys, she and her, men she and her, and women he and sir, like, no, like that's the line. That's the line that I drew before I came to my own conclusions of what I was gonna vote for again. It was, no, you're not gonna force me. Now you're trying to force me and my thoughts and my opinions on what I see into your delusion. And that's not going to happen. No, that's not going to happen. It's not. No matter how many politicians you've lobbied to go ahead and change words in the dictionary to fit your delusion, no matter how much, medical studies they've done in the past year or two to prove that, this is the right thing to do. No, it's not right. I don't give a shit what you're fucking, I'm trying to be nice. We're not gonna do it. We're just not. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. It's wrong. No. Men are not women. They'll never be women. Men, they'll never be men. Until the day comes where we've evolved enough to the point where you've allowed an individual who's smart enough to be able to truly manipulate DNA on the subatomic particle level, where we can change DNA so that you can actually make it a different blueprint. You're never ever going to be able to change sexes. That's the only way to do it, is you change the DNA blueprint. And if you can't do that, you can't just change your body and make it do what you want. That's not how it works. That's not how science works. That's not how the world works. That's not how God works. It's possible maybe that, yeah, we can choose our gender or change it or whatever, transform it, morph it naturally, but it's not going to happen by playing Play-Doh with our organs. It's not. It's just not. And to support that lie that it is to cater to mental illness, is in a way that's damaging, destructive, and permanently final in some cases, as the studies have shown that most people who have transitioned from bottom surgery, which means that they try to change their genitals to the opposite sex, they usually end up offing themselves not much longer after that, because they realize they made a mistake, and they're just going to be forever catering to a down there. That's it. And they're just going to have to live with it or off themselves, and that's what they do. And a lot of people like to try and blame, oh no, they transition because you don't accept them and they don't get the acceptance that they want. Bullshit. Okay, bullshit. That is the most, I hate that argument, because you know what, they're already not being accepted since before that by a lot of people, since before they went that far. And they don't kill themselves, they don't off themselves. Why is that? Because they're not feeling the pain down here, down there. Okay, maybe I can argument that it's just an added stress once they actually do the surgery and they realize they made a mistake and they're feeling the pain and they're, going through all the trouble of having to live this new life as the opposite sex, and they realize they're never going to be the opposite sex. Maybe I can give you that it's an added stress to the already negative responses they get from people when they try and say that they're, the opposite sex. But that just goes to show that the surgery doesn't help their condition. It doesn't. It makes it worse. Because if it was actually helping them, if it was making them feel like the opposite sex, why wouldn't they just get happier and ignore what everyone else is saying? Because they feel more like them, because they feel more like, who they are. That's the logical thing, right? Of what would happen is they would embody that person more, the opposite person that they feel they are inside more, and they would come out, and be more happy with themselves. But that's not the case. That's not what happens. And that's because it doesn't work. Because it won't ever work. You can never, ever, ever, ever make yourself the opposite sex. And that's just a fact. So yeah, people can have their own opinions about things and still, support your ideologies to a degree. But once you push a certain level of non-acceptance or of rage or hate, because at this point that's what it is, you get raged to the point where you want to off us for just saying that no, you're never going to be the opposite sex. That's never gonna happen. We're never gonna accept you for that. You have to off us for that? You want us gone for that? It gets me very angry, and it makes me have the same kind of sentiments for people like that, because if it comes down to it, if that's what we're gonna push it to, I rather the world my daughter is gonna grow up in be filled with people that are sane, rational, and not encouraging mental delusions in the world. So, bye. If that's what it's gonna come down to, bye, But I know that's not, the best thing. I know that's not what Charlie would have wanted. Charlie would have tried to help as many of you fucking retards as much as he possibly could. But he's gone now. He's not here because you took him. And a lot of you are happy about it. So now you're going to get what you get. You're going to get what's coming, which is people that are not going to be as nice as Charlie. We're not going to be as Jesus-centered and Christ-like as Charlie, which he was pretty close. I mean, he wasn't perfect. Of course, he was a human, and he did lose his temper at times, obviously, like everybody does. But he was pretty fucking close to it, And most people are not. I'm not. I can tell you that for sure right now. Like, I struggle, trying to be nice to people. And I'm not the person that's going to be afraid to, like, challenge a deranged person with purple hair, mad and wearing a dildo around the front of her, nipple showing white t-shirt or whatever. Like, that's not going to intimidate me. I'm not going to be scared. I'm not going to be whatever. Like, I can be just as fucking crazy, I can act just as insane as you, or more so. So that's not an issue for me, like, at all. And that's sad, because that's the only way these people, like, listen or comprehend. They only understand, like, pure rage. Like it's like, if you don't have that rage in you that really upsets you about a certain thing, then that means, like, you don't care, you don't have feelings, and you're a fascist. So you have to go, oh man, buddies, I cared about the left ideology way before many of you were even born. Way before I even knew what a fucking liberal was, I was being called a liberal, so shut the fuck up, honestly. Like, I understand that struggle and the other side even more so. So bring it on to all you haters out there who want to come and be laughing about Charlie's death and saying, he deserved it, and, saying that you're glad this is fascist and all this brainwash shit. I don't even care about educating you anymore. Like, I don't care. You can go off into the abyss of ignorance where you belong and stay there forever, as far as I'm concerned. And that's for anybody, everybody. I've had family too that don't talk to me anymore already because of the whole legal political issues. That's fine. Like, I don't care. Like, they don't need to talk to me. They don't need to talk to me. I don't care. I'm fine not talking to them. I cut friends off. I told them all, you supported Charlie dying. You laughed at it. You thought it was funny. You know what? unfriend me because you're not my friend. Because I agree with most everything Charlie said except for his stance on Israel until the end when he started shifting it a bit. But everything else, I agreed with him 100%. And if you think that he deserves to have a bullet to his fucking neck because of what he said, then you believe that I deserve to have a fucking bullet to my neck for the same thing. So I don't want you in my life. I don't need you as a friend. You can go off and whatever. I don't give a fuck. Like, this is the line that's been drawn. This is the line that we are drawing. You know, I was never one to delete family or erase family. I would have family delete me, and I would still ask how they're doing and still, you know, wish the best for them and still look them up and see, you know, how they're doing every so often because I cared. No, not anymore. Fuck that. Fuck you. Fuck all of you that think that. Because that could have been me, you know, if I would have gone that far. And I didn't even have my family back up then, so it would have been even harder for me. Fuck. Rest in peace, Charlie.